I think I'm going to turn the light on. Hello? I think that's better. I know, I forgot. Yesterday I was going to do a live, but then I didn't. I got too wrapped up in the essay I was writing and then forgot that I was supposed to do it. Well, not supposed to, but I was going to do it. Sorry, I'm looking at my dying fern, which is really sad. Oh well. So I just watched a TED Talk like a minute ago about the title is "Does Strength Need a Rebrand?" by, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Toby Kabile. And I'm watching TEDx videos because I have to do an essay about one or whatnot, and I gotta say, this one brought me to tears. Therefore, I'm gonna use this one. But she discusses how strength, especially with people of color, has been almost like thrust upon them. They've had to, like, people look at Black people like, oh, you're always strong, you have to be strong, especially Black women. And like, we see this in movies, we see this in media, we see this all over the globe in many different formats. And the examples she was portraying and using and giving also had me relate it to my own life and the life in which we all kind of live. So where I'm going with this is like the idea of what strength is in today's day and age, and how I too agree with her. It needs to be what's the word? It needs to be readdressed. So strength for other people. Okay, first I'll tell you what strength means to me. I grew up, fortunately, with a mother who pretty much taught me that vulnerability is strength, that there's nothing wrong with crying and expressing your emotions and asking for help. And I am quite fortunate, like very fortunate, to have grown up in that environment. However, speaking with like a lot of different people and witnessing how other people's lives have started and turned out and why they are the way they are today, I see that strength is something where you don't express emotion, because if you do, you'll appear weak, you'll appear fragile, people won't take you seriously, people would call you negative. That help seeking, for example, seeking help from like professionals, therapists, means that you're admitting there's something wrong with you and that that's a bad thing. But this is strength. Strength is to stuff it all and to pretend nothing bothers you. And that's how I see how other people have been, and I'm guilty of it, obviously, but how a lot of other people have navigated their lives. And like, when I've tried to not to stuff things, to not deal with my emotions, it hurts. Like, it actually physically makes me feel ill. And that might just be because sorry, I got like a hair in my throat. That might just be because of how I was raised, which, I know I'm not trying to go in circles, but I just imagine how it must make others feel tired all the time, and might be the reason why a lot of people consistently get sick, because they're not actually like allowed to go through their emotions, to express their emotions or experience them, because that isn't strength. I don't believe that, but this is what I'm seeing. When Toby is talking about this in her speech, in her TEDx talk, she expresses how she got diagnosed with diabetes and how she went through these very emotional experiences, and she had a realization that strength isn't necessarily being quote unquote like okay. It's not necessarily like having your shit together. It's to acknowledge that things are tough, to cry it out, to express yourself, being vulnerable and working through things. Obviously, in my past, for example, I did stuff a lot of my emotions. I didn't deal with, or in my opinion, I couldn't and didn't know how to deal with the amount of trauma that was created within my own individual life. Therefore, like I said, resulting in me not dealing with it. However, when I would drink, it all came out. And it was a very unhealthy way to express my emotion because I was projecting onto others and blaming other people and crying to the point that I'm physically making myself ill. Sometimes you will cry like that. However, it's just when you're doing things in that way, it can become very unhealthy. And I think that's where people decide, I'm just not going to feel, I'm just not going to express, because then they see people like me expressing emotion in a not very healthy fashion and atmosphere and environment, and they think, oh, that's not a good thing. That specific scenario of me getting drunk and expressing things and projecting and blaming other people for my trauma is not correct or healthy. I understand that it's like a product of elements and variables within that circumstance. However, and I'm not putting myself down for this. This is just awareness that I am, you know, but emotions themselves aren't the enemy. How you express it, like, okay, if it becomes detrimental to your health, if you're getting sick because of all the crying and all the feelings, and sometimes, like, I know I keep relaying it back to my own life, sometimes you get into a scenario where you're finally safe and secure, and then all of your trauma or all the feelings that you didn't deal with come up all at once, and it's just too much. In moments like that, it's important to like seek help, to talk to somebody, like for example, a therapist. I know it's very nerve-wracking, and like I said, society has made it almost like borderline illegal. Not illegal, but they've made it so that it's like a bad thing, layman's terms. However, and I know anxiety is a thing, like I'm diagnosed with severe anxiety, so I get the hesitancy with help seeking. However, talk to someone you know and trust. If, for example, you don't have anybody or you feel you don't have anybody, call a crisis line. Look up a crisis line. Look up. I just wish there's more resources readily available. I am trying to help. However, I also run into the brick wall of lack of resources readily at the fingertips, you know? What I'm trying to say is, as soon as it becomes something, okay, what I'm trying to say is, for me, when I met my partner, I had finally gotten into a safe and secure and supportive environment, which I hadn't really recognized before that. So as soon as like my body, my mind, everything recognized that I'm safe, all my trauma, and I'm not over exaggerating, all my trauma, my hardships, things that I never have actually worked through started coming up, getting triggered, everything. I cry every night. I got sick a lot and it just was too much. So I found a doctor who was taking patients. So I guess that's one thing you can do. I'm not saying it's easy though. I've talked to many people who they can't find a doctor. Find a doctor, find someone you love and trust that can be a soundboard for you. Find a therapist. If you need help finding these things, like message me. Like for me, my best friend who lives in a completely different province, they found my therapist for me. So maybe I could be that person for you. Maybe I can help you find somebody to help you. Um, Journal. I know like these sounds like, for me when I say journal, I almost get triggered because of the cult I was involved in, the cultiness cult. But just like blurting out on paper or even out loud, like how you're feeling, be like, I'm sick of this. I don't want to deal with this. Um, Going to sleep, having naps. I know that with all these things, you can end up doing too much or not enough. Just finding balance and whatnot. There isn't one way to help yourself. There isn't one way to be strong. And strength comes in many different forms. The important thing to know is that, or maybe try to start understanding, is that emotions aren't the enemy. Your mind, my mind sometimes feels like it is. Your mind might feel like it is, the thoughts and whatnot. But to recognize that there's parts of you that you may not like, or I don't know, I'm going on a tangent now. Emotions aren't the enemy. But like anything, like eating too much fast food or eating, like I'm just using an example, eating too much of something, doing too much of something can become unhealthy. So, and it takes time to kind of become aware of what's too much and what's not. Like, for example, I'm in university, and one week I took too many breaks, and I ended up being like 4 chapters behind somehow in one of my courses. So I'm still looking for balance and learning what that means for me. And yeah, I personally believe that strength is being honest. Being honest when it's hard, being honest when it's easy, being honest with yourself, where you're at, what you're going through. Yeah. And it's not easy. I admit that. It's not easy to be honest, especially when you're afraid of hurting others' feelings or hurting your own feelings or hurting the relationships you're in, the friendships you're in, the dynamics of a friend group. But something I tend to live by is I'd rather be honest. Mind you, there are ways to frame things without being rude sounding. I'd rather be honest than know, than stuff it, like specifically be honest about my feelings and stuff it inside of myself and potentially become like bitter or do that checklist thing in your head. Um, there are ways to let go of things, and that is something that I'm really trying to learn because I've been somebody who is a professional bridge burner, as per se. So by no means am I a professional in what I'm talking about. I can only talk about my own experience, what I've learned, and things I've witnessed. Um, if this helps anybody, that's great. If this triggers anybody, I apologize. It's not my intention. Please reach out, triggered or not triggered. Please be aware that you are special and you're important and your feelings are valid, whether people say they're in reality or not. You're experiencing them and you can get help. Help should be normalized. It is going out of your way to get help is strength too. It's a sign of strength, courage, bravery. Yeah. Because you are important, just as important as everybody else out there. There's no, like, when people say, oh, you should put yourself first or you should put others first, I'm like, no, there's a balance. I don't know if I necessarily believe that if you don't help yourself, you can't help others. I do understand the thought process behind that because it's ingrained in society that that is the way or whatnot. But I just think it has to do with balance. You can help others, but also help yourself at the same time. Sorry, very inappropriate. But okay. Well, much love. Thanks for listening. I'm painting my nails very badly, of course. Which, who? I was about to say something, but I can't say it anymore. Okay, I'm gonna go. Even if I was just, oh, I got a thumbs up. Thank you. Much love. And I hope you have an amazing day. And if you don't, remember you are amazing. Okay. Bye. Gonna take me a while to end the stream.